Freedom is at the ethos of everything that I do. I have systems around each of those 3 platforms. Every single piece of my business has a system around it so that I don't have to be the one that's doing it all the time.
It's difficult to delegate successfully sometimes.
If you don't have boundaries, you are breaking promises to yourself every single day. I went to New York University in New York City, and I watched those towers fall with my blind eyes. Like, not on TV, I saw them come down, I heard them come down. I lived in the city when that happened. I was like, there ain't no way that I am going to get on a plane. There was a time in my life that I was on planes literally like every 3 weeks. Remember, I wanted to be a consultant, and now I'm being a consultant inside of an organization. I don't have to travel anywhere. I'm just moving around different parts of the bank. So it was just an opportunity. I was young, I was single, I didn't have any obligations or commitments. I was like, why not go and just see what it's like? And I remember being like, what the hell did I just do? I just knew that I couldn't do that anymore, right? But that second business is really what set me up on now my trajectory to then be where I am now, and to do what I do now, and to work the way that I work now. We have to remember, we are here in Kenya, right? Kenya is a face-to-face relationship building culture.
Yep.
People want to sit with you. They want to know you. This is the best way to do this because I am the expert and I know.
Simi ndo nakusho.
Actually,
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Growing Out Loud with your favorite host, Daisy Keter. Drum rolls, please. First of all, this has been an amazing season. We're actually almost at the tail end of season 1. And I keep saying, starting new projects will test you. It will test your patience, it will test your endurance. It tests you in all ways, but it's also a hugely fulfilling journey. I keep saying, I had a podcast once, and I used to record it on my phone in my mom's room, and it was a solo podcast, and I did about 27 episodes. It was actually called Life Through Gen Z Lenses. You can check it out, it's still up. And then took a break from it, never really went back to it, and I felt like I needed to do something fresher, felt like maybe I had outgrown a certain season of my life. So I went ahead and started again another one. This one now is both audio and visual, to mean that you can find us on YouTube and all audio platforms. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, we're working on getting it on the other spaces as well. So in the event, please remember to subscribe and like and share with your friends and family. And please also give us feedback for the previous episodes that we've done. How have you found it? Anything that you've learned? If there are things you'd want us to address on this podcast, feel free to give us that feedback. Yeah. So if you're new here, this is a space where we talk about all things growth. Actually, our tagline is for the dreamers that do, to mean that for us, we are visionaries, we have places that we want to get to, but sometimes you find that what you're trying to do is a bit unconventional. You maybe have not seen other people doing it before, and sometimes you wonder, am I doing the right thing? Is this worth it? So what I'm trying to do here on this podcast is to bring on people that will inspire us, and by the time you're done listening to us, you're like, okay, this is the path less taken, but I got this, That is usually the goal for Growing Out Loud, yeah? So on today's episode, I am sat with an amazing lady. Actually, I'll first allow you to introduce yourself, and then I'll tell you how I got to know about you.
Amazing. My name is Danielle Anderson. I am a business coach and strategy advisor for women-owned businesses and really help them to leap from 6-figure months to consistent 7-figure months without working 24/7. Freedom is at the ethos of everything that I do, and being able to have freedom in your life, freedom with your finances, freedom with your time. And so I support women to achieve the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know how I got to know about you?
I don't. I assume on Instagram, because that's where we were chatting, but maybe not.
I followed you on Instagram
Okay.
after a conversation I had with someone, actually.
Someone?
Yes.
I love when people say someone.
Yeah.
And it's so secretive. And then they tell me after we stop recording, like, oh, this is the someone.
No,
it's okay.
No, for me, early in the year, I attended this event in March called the What Women Want event.
Yes,
Do you know about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. There, I asked a question. At the time, I was overwhelmed. I felt like my emotions were everywhere. I just needed, I don't know, I needed some grounding of sorts. Because as you know, with running a business and just living life, there's a lot of moving parts, you know. So I'd find that sometimes I'm too excited. It affects my work. Or sometimes I'm too much in fear or anxiety that it's affecting my productivity, right? And then I went for that event. I remember it was one of the panels and we were talking about wellness, I think. And so I raised my hand and asked a question on just how to regulate my emotions, or if anything, if there's a way I could take my emotions and put them in a folder somewhere and lock it for a while so that I can get work done and then come back to
open
it.
up later. Yeah.
That's a question. I was like, is there a way to compartmentalize my emotions? And then I remember the lady who was emceeing just told me, you won a voucher. So I won a 50K voucher for a deep transformational coaching sessions with a lady called Zainab Jaigani.
Yes.
I hope I got the second name. I haven't butchered it, Zainab. I'm sorry if I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I won these sessions. I won the 50K. So there were 5 sessions. Deep transformational coaching.
Amazing.
With Zainab. And let me tell you guys, the person that walked into Zainab's room at the start in May and the person that walked out of her room in July was absolutely different and life-changing.
Amazing.
So, yeah, shout out to you, Zainab, by the way. And in the event, you also feel like me and you struggle with anxiety and, I don't know, you just need someone to help you on your journey in terms of what is happening in here. And also, if you're looking to regulate your emotions, Zainab is the person to go to. And now at the end, as we were just chatting up and talking about, and I was explaining my challenges, she was like, I attended an event recently. And this lady talks a lot about systems and structures. And she's like, so this is her IG profile. She was like, follow her. She'll help you.
Wow,
yeah,
amazing.
Her content is good.
That's great.
Yeah, so that's how now I came to find out.
Zainab came to that event. I remember she was even sitting in the front and she had a big smile and she was filming content and yeah, amazing.
Yes, she's a lovely lady.
I love when our names get mentioned in a room that we're not in.
Yeah,
it's such a great part of business, and it's great when I hear stories like this that I am being mentioned in rooms that I'm not in, and opportunities come, and here we are today to talk more.
Right?
Amazing.
Yeah, so I went ahead and followed you on Instagram, and it was like, wow, this is exactly what I have been looking for.
Awesome.
Yeah, so now I'd like to first understand a bit about what you do.
Yeah.
You said systems and strategy. First of all, when you say, what do you mean by systems?
Yeah. So by systems, it's how are we running our business? So the way that I work with people, or the way that I help people to make more money and work less hours, is by having those 3 things: having strategies, systems, and boundaries. So strategy first is, what are you doing and where are you trying to get to? What type of business are you trying to build? Who are you working with? What are you selling to them? How do you price what you do? How do you talk about what you do? That's the strategy part of it. But if you have a strategy and you don't have systems to support your strategy, and then all of the pressure and all of the work and all of the load is then sitting with you as the founder until you have people that you can kind of delegate to. But even with them, there's still challenges that you go through. So if you have a strategy and you're trying to execute your strategy with no systems, that means that every single time that you're going out there and doing something, you're probably doing it completely differently. You're not following a process, you're not following a methodology, you're not following a structure, which means that when you try to then delegate it to someone else, they can't follow a process either because you don't have one, right?
Yeah.
So your systems are then all of the different things that you do in your business. And by systems, I don't mean tech systems necessarily. I don't mean spending money on end-to-end connectivity and infrastructure. A system could simply be a Google template and a spreadsheet, right?
Yeah.
But you have something that you are doing repetitively exactly the same way every single time and testing whether it works or not. And then if it works, you continue to do it. If it doesn't work, then you change it up.
Yeah.
So for me in my business as a service provider, the systems that I would have, and maybe this is also the same for you doing PR, I have a system for client acquisition. How is it that I'm going to get customers into my pipeline, right? And that system is on a couple of different platforms. So one of them is Instagram, another one is email marketing, and a third one is actually face-to-face stuff. Like, how do I build relationships? Especially here in Kenya, people really care about seeing your face and knowing you're here and knowing you're legit. And so you have to put your face out there and network with people.
Yeah.
So I have systems around each of those three platforms. I have systems around how I work with my clients. So every single client that comes to me and wants to work with me, they will follow the same process, even if within that process, the things that we talk about is different. So what, for example, I mean, let's say that someone books in a strategy day with me, which is a full day experience.
Yeah.
Before that strategy day, every single person that comes to me is going to go through the same assessment. They'll answer the same questions bespoke to their business, but the same exact questions, which I then pull information from to design their day. That day is then bespoke. Everything is going to look different for you if you're running that day versus if Shiro is there doing her business or so-and-so, whatever. But there's that system leading up to it, right? In addition to that, my assistant is able to follow her system, which is around communication. So she knows that she has to book a room. She knows that she has to organize catering. She knows that she has to communicate with my clients using a specific template where she just then plugs in the details that are different, right? I then have systems around finance. So once an invoice, once a service is provided, an invoice is generated, that then can go out automatically. We have systems around reconciliation and bookkeeping. So every single piece of my business has a system around it so that I don't have to be the one that's doing it all the time. That doesn't mean it's all automated. There is maybe still someone that's involved at different steps of the journey, but it allows me to then delegate to someone else, and then they can replicate what I would be doing. And when you have systems, you're then consistent with your clients, you're consistent with your delivery, people know what to expect, you have communication, nothing falls through the cracks. And then the final thing is boundaries, because if you don't have boundaries, you are breaking promises to yourself every single day. Like you cannot work 24/7 or even 12-hour days regularly without feeling the effects of that. The effects might look like burnout. The effects might look like overwhelm. The effects might look like decision paralysis, where you are absolutely unable to decide what to do next because you're overwhelmed with information and you don't know where to go. So you can't do it. Sure, you can do it for a little while, and sometimes it's even exciting to work long hours and to put in all that effort and see a project get off the ground or to see a project to completion. But if you continue to do that over and over and over, your business is not going to survive and your business is not going to thrive.
Yeah. And actually, everything you've said just speaks to me directly. Because
Daisy.
I'm like, yep, that's me. That's me. That is me again. And especially with the boundaries thing, everything actually, even the systems. And you've said you're right on point. For me, even when I delegate, because at the foundational level, I'm yet to have the systems truly in place. It's difficult to delegate successfully sometimes. Because you need to have communicated all this. And you see now, if it's like you said, if it's a strategy day, yes, it happens the same way. But now because I don't have anything written down, sometimes it's just a lot of back and forth that could be helped by having systems in place.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But now with the boundaries thing, especially, this is like my hugest challenge, let me tell you. Sometimes work feels so overwhelming that I will wake up in the morning and write a to-do list from number 1 to 10. And I know I'm supposed to do all these things, but somehow I'm unable to do any of it. So I end up doing nothing. And then I beat myself up about doing nothing. And still I'm unable to get up and do something to stop myself from doing nothing and being anxious. And so by the time I get there, I know, okay, things are bad. And it happens, I think, for me every 2-3 months. But now after actually sign up sessions, I think I can see a bit of change.
That's good.
But it can be a bit crazy. So that's what I'm saying. When you speak, you're speaking to me. So now, first of all, I want us to talk a little bit about how to, just simple ways of putting down or coming up with systems that will work, especially for solopreneurs, people who it's a one-man show. You're everything. You're marketing and admin and sales and everything. And especially for service businesses, because, with products, it's sort of easy to figure out how, I mean, I bought it at this price, I need to sell it at this price, this is my profit, right? But with a service-based business, sometimes it's difficult to even figure out how to price? How do you even validate that I've charged you this much because A, B, C, D, But before, I want us to talk about that. But before we do, Danielle, what's your story?
My story.
Yeah.
How far back do you want me to go? Like, which part do
Let's
you want
start
to
with,
focus on?
Why Kenya?
Why Kenya? Okay,
Yeah.
so that's a good question. I grew up in the U.S. You might be able to tell from my accent. Maybe not, because everyone has different accents from all over. But I grew up in the U.S. and I moved to London when I was 24, like fresh out of university, working for a corporate. And I shifted to London, and I was in London for 11 years. We can touch on that story if we want to. We don't have to. But I was in London for 11 years. And then in 2016, my life in London had come to a close. I had ended a relationship with my now ex-husband. I had already left the industry and started my own business. Like everything that I was doing in London had naturally kind of come to an end.
Okay.
And I knew I didn't want to stay in London any longer. In fact, I didn't want to be there even for the 11 years that I was there. It's like you get kind of in these situations where you're like, wow, 11 years has gone by. I can't imagine that time passes like this.
Yeah.
But anyway, long story short, I had the opportunity then to decide where next do I want to call home. I knew I didn't want to travel back. I knew I didn't want to live in the U.S. again, and I knew I didn't want to stay in the U.K., but I literally had no idea where do I go? And so in my mind, I decided I was just going to be a digital nomad for a while. I had built my business already in a way that allowed me to be location independent, because that was always a goal of mine from the beginning. Like, this is the type of business that I want to have. I want to be able to work from anywhere. Because even when I started it in 2012, I knew that London wasn't a long-term place for me. So I was like, I'll just be a digital nomad, this glamorous life of living out of a suitcase and traveling around the world and doing all these things. And, because I have a favorable passport, it's much easier for me to just rock up in any country and be like, okay, I'm going to stay here for a little while.
Yeah.
Let's not pretend that that's not the case, right?
Yeah.
That's for sure a privilege. So that was my intention. Now, before I even started on this digital nomad journey, though, I had already had a trip planned to Kenya. And the reason I had a trip planned to Kenya is because when I was in London, I was working with a woman. I had a client who was married to a Kenyan man. They were living in London at the time, but they knew that they were going to move back to Kenya to raise their children. So in between the time of us working together in 2016 happening, she had relocated.
Okay.
And so she had invited me down to Kenya to kind of just see what it was all about. And other Kenyans I had met over the years have been like, you got to go check out Nairobi. Like, you're totally into businesses. You love traveling. I think you would really like it there. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, let me add it to my never-ending list of places I want to visit.
Yeah.
And one day I'll eventually get there. So that one day was finally in 2016. I came down, literally I was only meant to be here, I think, for like 7 days. I came down to support this former client of mine in a project that she was running.
Yeah.
And I just loved it. I loved everything about Kenya. Like, I actually didn't even start in Nairobi. I started on the coast. I flew straight to Mombasa, then drove up to Kilifi. I spent, I think, 3 nights in Kilifi, then came to Nairobi. And we didn't even stay in Nairobi. We went straight to Shags. We went to Makwene County, like the middle of nowhere, Makwene County, like mud hut proper, like Africa, And I just loved the hospitality, the friendliness. The people were so welcoming and loving and caring and genuine.
Yeah.
I just got a great feeling about the place. And then I ended that trip with a couple of days in Nairobi and just liked the vibe of the city, the energy of the city, the buzz that was happening. And this, again, 2016, it feels different now than it felt then, but it still has that vibe
Energy.
in some ways. Yeah, but back then it was like, I don't know, it was just electrifying, like...
Okay.
I don't know how. But anyway, so I came here then for those 7 days. And while I was here, I messaged a friend back in the UK who was also a Kenyan.
Yeah.
Who was the first one that said you should go to Kenya someday. And I was like, I don't know why I'm leaving. I was like, I don't really want to come back to the UK. I had already decided that by the end of July, I was going to move out completely. This was now the end of May. I was like, all I really have to do is pack up my stuff and put it in storage, and then I could leave sooner. I don't have to wait 2 more months to be in a city that I don't want to be in. She's like, well, I'm actually going to go back to Nairobi in a couple weeks. So if you want, why don't you just come back, pack up your stuff, and then we fly back down together. And I was like, all right, cool, bet.
Wow.
So that's what I did. I went back to London. I put all of my stuff into 11 boxes, all of my life into 11 boxes, and put it into a French storage unit. I left everything else with my husband. I told him I didn't want anything. Keep all the furniture, keep all the appliances, keep all the electronics. I don't want a thing. All I want is these 11 boxes, which were clothes, shoes, paperwork, personal effects, and that was it, And 2 weeks later, I then got back on a plane, flew down with my Kenyan friend, and spent a month here.
Yeah.
And so, again, like at that time, I still wasn't really in Nairobi. I was mostly on the coast, and now I was going through this like transition. I was like, I literally had just ended my life in London, right? Everything, 11 years, it was now in boxes and storage. The door was closed. I was not going back there. I was now on this new digital nomad journey, right?
Yeah.
So I was here for a month, and then I had other plans. I went to the States for a while. I did the digital nomad thing for a little while, but there was something about Kenya that kept kind of calling to me, like there's something unfinished there. Like I really felt like this was the place that I should be, that I needed to be. And I don't know why. There wasn't like a rational thought. It was just like, there's something about that place that it feels like it's the right place for me.
Yeah.
So fast forward a year later, now 2017, around May 2017, I came back and I was like, this time I am going to stay in Nairobi. I am not going to go off to the coast. I am not going to go to the beach. I am not going to go Shurehe every Friday and Saturday. I am just going to be in Nairobi, and I am going to see if I can make my business work.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's when I started to really put in the effort to connect.
Yeah.
I connected with all of the incubation centers, iHub, NILAB, Nairobi Garage. I can't even remember who was around back then, but like all the incubation centers, all the accelerator programs, Strathmore Business School. I even connected with Bernard, who was over there at that time. And I just really started to put myself out there to meet people that were already involved in the startup ecosystem.
Yeah.
Because that's where I was focused back then, was really with startup businesses.
Yeah.
So it was meeting all these people, getting involved. I was even running my own meetup events, so bringing entrepreneurs to just have conversations and learn about the market and hear what people were facing and understand what was going on.
Yeah.
And the overwhelming response that I got from everybody that I was meeting is like, we need what you do,
Yeah.
but you can't do this in and out thing because we don't trust that. And I was like, okay, cool. That's kind of what I needed to hear. I just needed that validation that what
This
I
is the
offer
case.
is something that you guys actually want.
Yeah.
And so I was like, cool, let you guys go get your elections out of the way. This is 2017. I'll be back in October.
Yeah.
So I did. I came back October 2017. You might remember elections that year, they happened twice. So we had elections again shortly after I arrived, which kind of delayed the start of things. But I was here from October 2017, and I've been here ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, saw you documenting your journey and getting your permanent residency
Yes.
recently. How is that going?
Well, I don't know. Like, it's now a waiting game, right? So I submitted all my paperwork. I am eligible for it. I meet all the criteria. Now I just have to wait and see.
Let's just pray the systems work.
You know, the systems do work. It's just that we're always led to believe that they don't.
Yeah.
And because we're led to believe that they don't, it's easy for them people to try to extort you and be like, I can make it work for this amount of money, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people just fall for it. But what they don't understand is like, I've been here 8 years. Like, I understand how this nonsense works. Like, don't try to extort me for money. You know, like, don't.
Yeah, I know
don't.
how it works.
Yeah, I know
I'm
how
not
it
naive.
works. Yeah, I'm not naive. I've been to Nyayo House before. I know what queue to stand in. I know I just have to smile a little bit. It's cool. Like,
Yeah.
And I go there with the understanding that this could take all day. Don't go to Nyayo House with a rushed plan. Don't have to be somewhere. Like, just go and be like, all right, cool. I have a book. I'm going to sit here. I have my charger, and I'm just going to wait until it's my turn. And I have never been there for longer than 30 minutes. Never. There's been times I've had to kind of go back and forth because I've missed a step in the process, but it's never been a huge waiting game.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm eligible.
All the best.
Thank you.
We
digress.
we digress.
But yeah, that's how I ended up here.
Okay. I'm curious, as you're talking about this whole journey, and like you went to London and came to Kenya for a month and then went back again and then came back and then went to the US, right? All this time you're still running your business.
Yes.
So systems are already in place and
No.
structures?
No.
Okay.
They weren't.
Okay.
They weren't at all.
So at the time, what was your story? What was your journey like then?
Yeah.
And as a prerequisite to that question, what is your what did you do in school that led you to work in corporate in London?
Okay.
Yeah.
Which one do you want me to answer first?
London. Why? What did
How
you
did
do
I-
in school? Yeah.
Okay, so I went to New York University in New York City, and I studied management and organizational behavior.
Okay.
My my choice of that subject was that I liked business. I always liked the idea of business. And when I was in university, I really wanted to be a management consultant. I wanted to work for, back then there were 5, but now it's a big 4, like PwC, Deloitte, KPMG, et cetera. I wanted to work for one of those guys.
Yeah.
But while I was in university, and now I'm dating myself, while I was in university, the terrorist attacks of 9/11 happened in New York City, which is where my university was. So I watched those towers fall with my blind eyes, like not on TV. I saw them come down. I heard them come down. I lived in the city for, the aftermath of that. And so that dream of becoming a management consultant kind of went out the window because instantly when that happened, I was like, there ain't no way that I am going to get on a plane and fly all the time when people are flying planes into buildings, which is very ironic now because I live on the other side of the world. And there was a time in my life that I was on planes literally like every 3 weeks. Not the case anymore, but there was a period in my life where it was like that. But back then, as a young 20-year-old, I was like, I don't want that. I do not want that at all. So imagine being in your 3rd year of university. We do 4-year programs in the States. Imagine being in your 3rd year of university and what you thought you were going to do when you finished is now gone, right?
Down. Yeah.
And I was like, am I allowed to swear on your podcast?
Yes. Come. It's okay. Feel free.
And I was like, shit, what am I going to do? Like what's next for me?
Yeah.
And so because I went to NYU, I did have the benefit of being, they had a great recruitment process. All the companies would come to campus and just recruit directly off campus. And so a lot of the companies that were coming to campus were financial services institutions because we were in New York City. So Wall Street was right there. The big banks were all there, as well as the management consultancy companies. Yeah. And so I ended up doing an internship with Goldman Sachs the summer between my 3rd and final year of university. And when I did that internship, I was like, oh, there's roles for people like me in organizations like this. And what I mean by that is the internship that I was doing was in a client relationship management role. And it was very people-focused. It was very project-focused. It wasn't about numbers at all, which is what I believed one had to have if they wanted to go into financial services, is that they had to really love finance, which I didn't. Like, I was good with numbers. I can do a spreadsheet, even like spreadsheets were just getting started back then, but I could do a spreadsheet. But it wasn't my passion, right? Yeah. So that role allowed me to see that there were opportunities for people that weren't in finance to also work in organizations like that. And I was like, okay, that could possibly be a thing for me. So then a few months later, they were doing on-campus recruitment now for permanent roles. Yeah. And I didn't want to be a Goldman. I decided to then I did an interview with JP Morgan. And JP Morgan had a program that was called internal consulting. And what it was is you would rotate into different areas of the bank and try out different functions, different roles, even different parts of the bank, and figure out where is it that you feel there's a good fit, which was perfect because remember, I wanted to be a consultant, and now I'm being a consultant inside of an organization. I don't have to travel anywhere. I'm just moving around different parts of the bank. So when I had that opportunity for then a 1.5-year program with JP Morgan, I learned that I really loved strategy. I had a role that I was very, very junior, but I was in a strategic role, and I loved that. And I decided, okay, this is great. This is what I want to do. I want to do strategy within financial services, but specifically within the investment bank. Okay. So that then became my long-term vision of the role that I wanted for myself. I didn't get there for a while. It took I had to build up to it, right? They don't just let you do strategy in investment banking when you're 20-something years old, like 21 years old. But that was the role that I eventually ended up in when I was 29.
Okay.
So I had the opportunity when I was 24 to move to London with JP Morgan. I actually stayed with JP Morgan for 9 years in New York, Chicago, and also in London. Okay. And it was just an opportunity. I was young. I was single. I didn't have any obligations or commitments. I was like, why not go and just see what it's like. And I remember being on that plane and I was like, what the hell did I just do?
I can imagine.
What the hell did I? Because I'd never been to London before. I just made the decision. And again, I made the decision because someone planted that seed and I was like, why not? Why not? I'm young and I have no reason to say no, right? Yeah. And so I moved to London as a 24-year-old. I didn't know anybody. The only thing I knew was the role that I was going to do because it was the same role I'd been doing in New York, but I was just shifting now to the London office. And then over the years, I moved into different roles and eventually ended up in that strategy position within the investment bank at a very senior level, but it took a while to get there. So that's how I ended up in London. And when I got to that role that I'd been working towards literally my entire career, I hated it. I hated it. And so imagine working for like, at that
For
point, it was
9
like
years.
8 years. Imagine working for 8 years and like getting to that role and being like, what is this nonsense? And it wasn't that I hated the work itself. I really loved, so what strategy looked like in investment banking was that the business would come to me and they would say, we want to do this. And this could be, we want to launch in a new market. We want to start working with different customers. We want to sell this product to these existing customers, but we don't know how to do it. We want to, make our systems more efficient. We want to do this, we want to do that. So my role was really to sit in between all of these different players within the investment bank and make ideas turn to life.
Yeah.
So if they have an idea of how they want to grow the business, Danielle's job was to go and make it happen by liaising with all the relevant departments, by speaking to people inside the business, outside of the business, tax, compliance, legal, operations, technology, finance, everybody, and pulling all of those pieces together and making an idea happen.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what I do now, but I do it for small businesses rather than corporates.
Yeah.
So I got to this role. I hated this role. And I decided, let me see if the grass is greener at a different bank. Because now I'd been at JP Morgan for 9 years. And I thought, okay, maybe if I go to a different bank, it won't be as bad. Because the thing that I hated about the role wasn't the work, right? I forgot that part. The thing I hated about the role wasn't the work. It was everything that came with it. So the higher that you climb on the corporate ladder, the more bullshit, bureaucracy, backstabbing, patriarchy, like it was just toxic. Like it just was not an enjoyable place to be. And I thought it was bad at JP Morgan, but when I left JP Morgan and I went to HSBC, it was a million times worse. And I don't know if it was because culturally JP Morgan is an American bank and HSBC is a British bank, and maybe culturally there were some reasons why that perpetuates itself. That's a topic for a different podcast.
Yeah.
But when I got to HSBC, I went to HSBC as a consultant rather than as a full-time employee, thinking, okay, if I'm a consultant, I can remove myself from some of that bureaucracy because I'm just here to do my job and to go home, right?
Yeah.
And get paid and go home.
Yeah.
But I found it was worse because the culture at HSBC was horrendous. Like there were no women in senior positions. So at JP Morgan, where half of the trading floor would be women, and you saw women MDs and, in C-suite level positions, they even had programs to make sure that women that were at analyst level would climb up the ladder. You didn't have that at HSBC. The only women that you saw on the trading floor at HSBC were assistants, executive assistants,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and chief of staff.
How long this was?
This was in 2011.
Yeah, so about 13 years later, would you say it looks different?
I don't know because I'm not there anymore, right? So I left the industry completely in 2012, and then decided to start my business about 6 months later. That's a whole other story, but started my business in 2012. And so your other question was, how was I able to now travel the world and do all these things? Did I have systems?
Yeah.
And my short answer was no, I didn't have systems. I didn't have systems until I was like 8 years into business, which is why I know the importance of having systems, because it took me a long time to get there. And then when I finally got there, it exponentially changed my business in terms of the money that I was making, in terms of the clients that I was working with, in terms of being able to hire people, but we'll come to that. So back then, I didn't have systems. I started my business and I was focused at that time primarily on startup businesses.
Yeah.
Because remember, I had been working in corporate, starting all of these different business ideas. And so I was now going to small businesses and supporting them with their ideas to turn their ideas into reality using the same techniques. Like there's all these moving pieces. How do we pull all these pieces together?
Yeah. Allow me to ask this question. Why, with your expertise and experience level, you could easily have consulted for big firms as well.
I know.
Right? So, also small business, we don't have money.
I know. These are lessons that we learn along the way.
So I choose to work with small businesses, yet you have expertise to work with the guys with the money.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't want to be in corporate anymore. I knew that not only did I not like the work environment in terms of the bureaucracy and the backstabbing, but it really just it just killed my soul. Like I just didn't feel any longer like that was the place for me. So there's personal things that happened at that time also. So in 2008, my now ex-husband and I first started dating. In 2010, so 2 years later, he was diagnosed with brain cancer at the age of 29. And imagine being in your 20s, your late 20s, and having someone who's your peer, your age mate, diagnosed with a terminal illness, right? When we're young, people die, sure, but when they're our age, it tends to be an accident, or maybe it's a car accident, maybe there's an overdose, whether it's on purpose or accidental. Maybe there's a terrorist attack. Maybe there's a plane crash, like something that's big and tragic that makes someone lose their life early on. Normally, when you're in your 20s, the people that you think about dying are older, maybe your grandparents, maybe sometimes your parents or aunties and uncles, right? And you think, oh, they've lived a long life. They've made it. So to now be 29 and to have someone who's your age diagnosed with a cancer that they say, we cannot cure this. This is going to be something that takes your life at some point. We don't know when, right? When that happened, I realized, wait a second, like there's more to life than work. There's more to life than sitting at a desk all day. And I was working in an industry that required me to be there not for 8 hours a day. I was there for like 12 hours a day, on a minimum 10 hours a day. There would be some days that I would go to work at 7:30 and find out when I got there that someone that worked for me has called out sick, so I have to pick up the slack, which meant that I now have to cover the closing shift, which goes until 10 or 11 or 12 o'clock at night.
Wow.
There were times that I fell asleep, there were times that I fell down in the shower because my body was so tired and I just had to keep going, right? There were times that I was just I was unhealthy, I was overweight, it was just a bad environment in which to live in, right? So although the money was great, the job was rewarding in the sense that it allowed me to be intellectual and to work with very smart people, the culture in which I had to work was not one that really felt like it sit with me any longer.
Yeah.
And so I just knew that I couldn't do that anymore, right? So I shifted to HSBC under the hopes that maybe things would improve a little bit. Even when I was with HSBC, I shifted to 4-day work weeks because I was a consultant. I could kind of dictate my own time. But I just didn't want to be in that environment anymore. I really wanted to be in a space where I was where I felt more like myself, but I didn't even know who myself was anymore because I'd been there for nearly 10 years. Yeah. You know, you leave university, you get a job, and you just kind of go with go through the motions, and you just follow the path that you're told to be on without really questioning, is this where I want to be? Yeah. So when I first left HSBC, I didn't have a plan. I just had some money. I had money in the bank. I had savings. I knew that I could always go back if I wanted to, but I really was hell-bent on not going back. Yeah. And so I really started this space of, I spent about 6 months just trying to figure out, what is it that I actually want to do? So I was volunteering. I was volunteering with businesses to try to understand different industries that were out there. I was taking some art classes, just dabbling with my creative side. I traveled to sub-Saharan Africa for the first time, to Zimbabwe. I was there for 3 weeks. And I just was allowing myself to experience life and to try to figure out, what does Danielle actually like doing? Because I didn't know. Yeah. And so in the course of doing that is when I realized that there's all these small businesses that are out there that need the expertise that I have to make their businesses work, but they don't have my expertise, and let me help them. So that was my plan in the beginning. Let me help startup businesses. Yeah. And as you say, startup businesses, they don't have money. They want to... No systems. But I wasn't doing systems then. My thing back then was really just helping people to create strategy, really. Yeah. Business plans. Yeah. And so I really focused my efforts on then partnering with startup support organizations, which is places like iHub and NILAB here in Nairobi. But back then I was in London, so partnering with startup support organizations in London or more broadly across Europe at the time, and being paid by those organizations that were then offering my services free to the businesses that were in their umbrella, right? So I didn't have systems because I was just kind of a free-for-all, just putting myself out there, seeing what would stick, seeing who was willing to pay me, seeing where I could get gigs, landing a couple of contracts here and there. And so when I then left in 2016 to then figure out where I wanted to be, technically, I could work from anywhere because my clients could be anywhere. But in theory, I wasn't really working for that year and a half. I was doing a couple of contracts here and there. I was making a bit of small money. Again, I had some cash that I had saved from one of my gigs that then allowed me that freedom to kind of figure life out again. Yeah. But it wasn't until I landed now in Nairobi in 2017 where I would even say like I really started my business because from 2012 to 2017, I was just trying anything. I was going where the opportunities were. I was saying yes to everything, seeing if it would turn into something. I was chasing after whatever sounded like a good thing, which is what a lot of people do when they're starting out, because you are trying to figure out what is my expertise? What are people willing to pay for? What does my market look like? Who is my ideal client?
Yeah.
So then when I came to Kenya in 2017, I actually started a second business just because we like to confuse ourselves and to do more than we're supposed to.
Well.
But that second business, which is no longer around, but that second business is really what set me up on now my trajectory to then be where I am now, to do what I do now, to work the way that I work now. Because it really got me now in front of business owners rather than in front of startup support centers. It really got me learning about what do small businesses and even micro businesses need in order to thrive.
Yeah.
And it also got me away from the startup scene, because startups, no offense, because I know you guys are starting, and there's people here listening that are starting. You have to figure things out. Like, it's going to take time to figure things out. And my expertise is actually better like 2 years down the track, 3 years down the track. You've already figured out some things, and now you want to make that thing that you figured out work and scale. Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't have systems then. I had no boundaries then. I had no plan. I had an idea, but I didn't really have anything thrown together. And it wasn't until, I would say, 2020 during COVID, where my second business was now ground to a halt, because it was my second business was an in-person networking club for women in business, which meant that we met physically every month in person.
Yeah.
And we couldn't do that anymore. So I had to sit my ass at home during COVID, and I was like, okay, so this business that has been making me money, that has been building my pipeline, that has been translating into one-to-one clients is no longer an option. What do I now do to get my business, the one that's just mine, because that one was with, I had a co-founder with that. What do I now do to get my business actually working? Yeah. And I tore everything to the ground. I started, not from scratch because I had experience, but I started over. I redesigned my offers. I redefined who I was working with. I put systems in place. I put structure in place. I put boundaries in place. And as a result of doing all of that, my business exponentially, like I trebled my revenue within 1 year. And then, year on year from there. And, I have pipeline. I've had a child since then. I had to take a bit of maternity leave. Like, there's things that I wouldn't have been able to do 7 years ago when I first came to Kenya, because I didn't have any of that stuff, which is now why that's what I really teach people.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know this might counter what you're trying to say, which is boundaries, and not maybe saying yes to everything. But it feels like you're sitting here because you said yes to a lot of things then and tried to figure out what it is that you like, and you moved around quite a bit, even when you were working in London within the farm, you moved around, and then for this many years you were just trying to, pick things here and there until you finally found your feet.
Yes.
So would you say that what's the line? How do we know that, we say yes to things to find out what you're trying to do, but also this is how you put in boundaries to ensure that you don't waste your time?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. And it's okay to be a contradiction, right? Because you're right. If I had said no to all of those other things, I wouldn't be sitting here today, because I wouldn't have had all of these different experiences. And I don't think there's a hard and fast rule that I can say yes to this and don't say yes to this. But I do think that especially as you grow your business, remember, this isn't startup phase anymore, right? Once you grow your business, you have to start saying no. Because if you continue to say yes to everything, you will dilute your impact, you will dilute your focus, you won't be able to do everything, you'll be juggling all of these balls, you'll be dropping a lot of balls, and you, the woman behind the business or the man behind the business, you'll suffer the most, right? So I think say yes to things that are in line with your longer term vision, right? We were talking about this before we started shooting. Like, when you start your business, so if I go back to 2012 and I was starting my business then, I knew that I wanted to have a business that was location independent, because I knew already in 2012, because my husband and I had spoken about it, that we weren't going to stay in London. It was initially a couple's dream that we were going to go somewhere together. So when we split up, I knew, okay, like, I'm definitely going, but he was still there. But I knew that eventually I didn't want to be in London anymore. So the things that I was saying yes to had to still allow me to be building my business in a way that was going to be location independent. So for example, I said yes to opportunities that asked me to travel. because I can travel from anywhere. Like whether I'm based in London or I'm based in Nairobi, if you need me to travel to Geneva, it doesn't matter. I'm traveling anywhere, right?
Yeah.
So I said yes to opportunities that allow me to travel. I said yes to startup support organizations that were going to get me in front of my ideal customer. So I said yes to opportunities that put me in spaces where my ideal customer was going to be already.
Yeah.
So even, for example, saying yes to being on this podcast, there might be ideal customers that are listening into this podcast, but I wouldn't go and sit on a podcast that has nothing to do with my business or my message or my values, because that's the wrong space for me to be. So say yes to things that are going to put you in rooms, in spaces, in opportunities that are still getting you in front of the right people.
Yeah.
So for example, I also said yes to attending conferences. I hate conferences. Like not that I hate them, but they're a lot of work. Like you have to go in there, like you can't just sit against the wall and not talk to people. Like if you're going to go to a conference, you have to be on, you have to network, you have to be willing to talk about yourself, you have to be willing to make small talk, which I hate. Like, so I went to a lot of conferences because those conferences had attendees that were going to be my ideal customer, or that I could learn about business from. So make sure that you're saying yes to things that are getting you closer to where you're trying to get to.
Yeah. And just to add on to that,
Yeah.
remember what you said earlier, especially here in Kenya, people work with people they know, like, and trust.
Everywhere,
right?
but especially here.
Yeah. So even for me, actually, I think I'm sat here, even with you remember telling you how I got to know of this space
Yes.
here and all the many opportunities that have come about. Yes, I built my brand online, but I realized you build your brand online and then now you take yourself to the ground.
Yes.
We call it taking yourself to the ground. And now when you actually meet the people and they see what you've been able to build and they see you in person,
Yes.
it's very easy to get them to lock in, and do business with you.
And I think this is a super important point, Daisy. Like, we have to remember, we are here in Kenya, right? Kenya is a face-to-face relationship building culture.
Yep.
People want to sit with you. They want to know you. Like you say, know, like, and trust is known in the marketing industry for all people, regardless of where you are. But in some cultures and in some countries, that can be done entirely online.
Yeah.
Here,
Ooh, that's boring.
but some people, like, you look at, like, for example, you look at business coaches who have a completely online business model,
Yes,
right? Even like old school people like Marie Forleo, who's been around since the beginning, has an entirely online business model. She might run some really high ticket retreats where you can meet her in person, but you're paying like $10,000+, right, to go and do those things. All of her programs have always been online. Most people probably have never met her, even though that they've worked with her.
Yeah.
That model works in many places. It doesn't work here. And although maybe it will work here one day, it doesn't work still. COVID accelerated our acceptance of Zoom calls and online meetings. Thank God somehow for that, because
and online businesses as a whole, we are very skeptical.
Yes, and online businesses as a whole,
Yeah.
absolutely. And thank God for that, because otherwise I dread to think how long it would take us to actually catch up. It accelerated that process.
Yeah.
But it's still important to be able to, like you say, hit the ground, like build up your business online, because people want to check you out online too and see who you are, what do you stand for, what do you talk about. But there's a different presence that you get from someone sitting like this over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine or whatever.
Yeah.
That just doesn't exist in the online space.
Yeah.
And we have to be mindful of that. Like, if you want your clients to be here in Kenya, you have to work with Kenyans the way that they want to be worked with. And again, that doesn't mean that you have to have a physical office that people can come and check up on you in. Like, I think that is also a stigma that we no longer have to subscribe to. But, there are things that we need to be able to do. So, I think we digressed a lot, but
No,
that's
okay.
what
It's
happens with
relevant.
podcasts. Yeah.
No, it is relevant to this conversation. But the other question that I wanted to ask you was, why women businesses specifically?
Yeah, great question. So remember I said when I came to Kenya, I had a second business.
Yeah.
So when I came to Kenya and to settle now, that woman that initially planted the seed to visit also relocated back from London to Kenya. Her name is Lulu Kitololo. She's still here to this day.
Okay.
So Lulu and I, back in London, had done some things together, and then we decided when we were both here at the same time, we must do something together again. And we got this idea, and it wasn't even meant to be a networking club. We wanted to run a business retreat where we would take people away from their businesses for a couple of days to some beautiful location, maybe to the beach, maybe to the mountains, who knows? We didn't get that far. And like help them work on their businesses.
Yeah.
And when we did market research to get this idea running, the overwhelming responses that we got from people was that they didn't want that.
Oh.
What they wanted was a regular way to connect with other people in business. And so Lulu and I were like, all right, maybe, and we had been in networking clubs together in the UK. It's very common there to have them. And we're like, what if we create a networking club for women in business? So what was initially meant to be literally a weekend where we just devote a weekend to supporting people turned into a 1.5 year in-person, crazy, beautiful business model that was nothing like we dreamed that it was going to be, but that fit the market perfectly. So we started this networking club, which was women only, because we were going to do a retreat. So initially we were just going to have women at this retreat.
Okay.
And so because we surveyed all women, we then said, okay, let's build a networking club that's also only women. And we just decided that we were going to work with women specifically. And the reason we decided that we were going to work with women specifically is because women in business do face challenges that men in business don't face. And as much as we try to pretend that they don't exist, they do exist. And we have to be able to create spaces where people can talk about that and express that and learn from each other and to figure out ways to come past that.
Yeah.
For example, men don't bear children. They do not have, there's no childbirth for a man.
Yeah.
And although families look different and your family dynamics might look different, typically a woman is going to be the person that now needs to look after her child, and maybe also is looking after elderly parents at the same time or other people in the family. And so that challenge of being a mother and also being a business owner is something that women only face. And so to be able to have safe spaces where those conversations can happen was important for us. So the networking club was only women, and it grew so big. So we had over 100 paying members that would come to our networking club. We also had self-care events every month that we would open up to the wider community. You didn't have to be a member to come. But ultimately, our community of women business owners in Kenya grew to about 800 women.
Wow.
Yeah, in a very short space of time. It was, like I said, it was a very beautiful business model, but it was very exhausting at the same time. And so when that happened, my network then grew by 800 women, right? Literally grew by 800 women. So when COVID happened and that club shut down, and I now needed to have pipeline for my programs, my coaching programs, my network was already now naturally women. And so when I then, remember I said I tore everything down, I started from scratch, I then reassessed who is my ideal customer. And because my pipeline was already this large, pipeline community network was already this large full of women, and because I had intimate, deep understanding now of the challenges that they were going through because we were intimately with them every single month for 1.5 years, talking about these things, learning from them also learning from us, I knew exactly what they needed for their businesses. And it automatically made it super easy for me then to develop an offer that sold instantly, that scaled also instantly. And so that was one main reason why I decided to work with only women. The second reason I decided to work with only women is because every time I would try to work with a man, and no offense, guys, like I'm sure there's some of you that are listening that are not like this, but every time I would try to work with a man, they would be like, Sawa, let's meet at 5:00 at blah, blah, blah location. We grab a quick drink. We talk about business, blah, 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 blah. And in my naive days, when I first came to Nairobi, I was like, great, because in London, if a guy says that, you're like, cool, no problem. You just go and you have a drink and you talk. Because also in London, like after work drinks are very common, right? No problem. Here, okay, so like, what do you think? I can take you out sometimes. You have a husband, like every single time. Okay, I don't want to say every single time. 95.75% of the time, I would get advances like that. And it's uncomfortable. Yes, I can help you in your business, but no, I don't want to sleep with you. No, I don't want to be your girlfriend. No, I don't want to be your side chick. I don't want this nonsense, right? And so to remove that, I just stopped working with men. And to this day, I get men that are vexed about me, that saying, like, I only want to work with women. I'm like, well, talk to your brothers. Like, talk to your people about, not harassing me like this. And I know it's not just me. I know that all of us women, we face this.
Go through it more times than you'd think, actually.
95.75% of the time. And it's frustrating. Because, sure, I can help you. I can actually really help you with your business.
I'm really good at
I'm really good at what I do. And no, you're not even attractive active. Like, leave me alone. Please leave me alone. So anyway, that was the secondary reason. But, it just became uncomfortable, So now I still work with men, but in a very professional setting, meaning like they might be running a program at a place like iHub, right? It's very different than, I have a business, I want you to come and help me. I don't do it. I just don't do it unless it's like a direct referral. But I can't even remember the last time that I worked with a man.
Oh.
And I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Because there's people out there, there are business coaches out there that will work with them and deal with their menenos.
Fair. And I think that's actually a conversation that we need to have. Maybe also in a room with women to just discuss how to navigate and go about such situations, because it happens to a lot of, especially, I guess women, but for me as a young lady, they look at you and they're like, oh, you, okay, first let's have a drink and then.
Yes.
Yeah, and then we'll talk over a drink. And I'm like,
Which is funny because I also
time.
go out for drinks with my female clients, right? Like, not even clients. That's actually part of my know, like, and trust building factor.
Yeah.
Like, if someone is a warm lead, I'll often invite them out for a coffee, or if I know they drink wine, I'll maybe invite them out for a glass of wine, and like that's part of the process. Yeah. But I'm not hitting on her during, your braids are so beautiful. I really like the length of your dress. You think you could just push it up a little bit for me? That's nice. Thank you. But that's what happens, and it's so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. There is a time and a place for romance and a time and a place for business, you know? And it's just it's very frustrating.
Yeah. Back to now, boundaries, systems and boundaries. And I say this every time I'm on set. I actually usually bring on guests and I bring out my pain points. Me as Daisy.
It's like free therapy, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, me as Daisy, this is what I'm struggling with, right? And you see, initially, like I was telling you before we started shooting, a lot of us young people especially, given our economy, there are no jobs for us to go into. So what a lot of us are doing is just trying to create employment for ourselves, right? Sure. So a lot of us are really, it's skill-based, right? So we know maybe there's a good videographer, there's a good video editor, a good graphic designer, a HR, someone who's just gone into HR, accounting, stuff like that, right? Yeah. So they know how to do that
thing.
The technical bit. But now running the business is what they don't know, right? Mm-hmm. So actually earlier on last year, I noticed a lot of people will come to my DMs on LinkedIn and be like, Daisy, Kai, how do I charge this customer? And I'm like, girl, I don't know. I'm also figuring this out, right? So actually put together a community called the Gig Collective. So it's a community of gig guys in the gig economy, mostly young people who are just now trying to come and see if we can figure out. So my work is to bring in people, experts, to come and now talk to us about how to run businesses and scale them, right? Yeah. But now it also proved to be a bit not sustainable, because running such a community, especially if you're not charging any money, can be a lot and intensive and difficult, right? But now, just in what simple ways or can a solopreneur who's just good at the technical bit, what simple systems can they put in place to help them at least take them to just the next level, in your view?
Yeah, so it's funny you use this word solopreneur, and I think even in our first conversation in DM, you called yourself that. And I was like, why do you call yourself a solopreneur? and I think that you have to decide, like, do you want to continue to be a solopreneur or do you want to create a business? Because they're different, right? A solopreneur is someone that's just trying to go out there and get work, and they don't really care so much about the systems in the background. They're just doing a piece of work and then they're finishing. Although systems are still important. I'm going to come back to them in a second. And then if you're a business owner, you're already thinking about it differently. Okay. Right? You're already thinking, okay, as a business, I need to have marketing. I need to have sales. I need to have finance. I need to have maybe HR, legal, etc. You have all of these different components of a business. But as a solopreneur, you need those things, not all of them, you need those things also. You need to have marketing. People need to know about you. They need to know what you do. You need to have a list of your services that people can know what they can hire you for. You need to have a price list so people know what they pay you. And don't make it up every single time, right? Because then, don't make it up every single time. I know you guys are doing this, like, today she's a Mzungu. I'm going to charge her this price. Yeah. And, this person's Gen Z. I'm going to charge them this price. Don't do that. Just have a price. Your price is the price, right? Okay. You need to have a process for creating invoices or contracts even, right? You need to have all of those systems in place so that you're making your life as easy as possible and that you're making your job as easy as possible, even if you are the only person that's doing everything. There's also been times, even up until recently, I was back doing everything in my business because when I was on, well, it wasn't really maternity leave because I was still working, but when I was in the early days of being postpartum with my son, I just couldn't manage people anymore. So I let go of my entire team and I was just doing everything on my own. And I wasn't doing everything very well because I couldn't. I didn't have the capacity for that. I was just focusing on client work, really. I wasn't doing marketing. I wasn't online for a long time. I wasn't doing emails to my list. I let go of everyone. So there's been times in my business where I am back to being the only person that's doing everything. But because I have systems in place, it's easy for me to do that. So that's one thing, is like making sure that you have a process that you follow, that you know, this is the way that I get my customers. This is the most effective way that I get my customers. I might be on TikTok. I might be on Instagram. I might be on LinkedIn. I might be going to networking events. But which one is consistently getting me customers? Because if the other ones are not consistently getting you customers, stop using them. Stop wasting your time creating content for every single platform when other platforms are not the ones that are working for you.
Yeah.
Right? If you are... So having a process around your marketing, having a sales process that you follow. Like once someone says, hey, I want to work with you, what do you do next? So that you're not, again, reinventing the wheel every single time. Like, are you getting them on a call so that you can understand their requirements? Are you writing a proposal so that they have a full scope of your work? Are you sending them a contract so that they sign on the dotted line and that there's no dispute about what's being delivered and what isn't being delivered? What process are you following from when someone says, I'm interested in you, to you then delivering the service? What process are you following after you deliver the service? If you're a videographer, what is your turnaround time? How quickly is your client going to be able to expect their video or their audio? Where are you putting it? Is it going on Dropbox? Is it going on Google Drive? Who owns the rights to the videos? How do you communicate that to the client? Create a process so that everything can be standardized. Because even if you're a solopreneur now, if your aim is in the future to have other people doing things for you, the sooner that you can create those processes, the easier it's going to be for you to get those people on board. And maybe those people are not doing the same thing as you. So for example, in my business, I don't actually ever see a day that I want to hire another service provider. I don't see a day where I have another consultant or coach who's working under my company and is working with my clients. I am the one that works with my clients. And I'm okay with that. I know that limits my scalability. I'm also okay with that. I have a business that looks the way that I want it to. I don't want to have someone else who's coming in and trying to do things in a different way than how I'm doing it. People come to my business because they want to work with Danielle.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that's okay. I could maybe find another Danielle, but she won't be the same. She won't be as smart, maybe. But she won't have my experience. She won't have my methodology. And even if I can teach her or him what I'm doing, it still will be different, right? So I'm not trying to hire someone to replace me, which is a failure in some ways because it means like my business is never going to sell or it's never going to hit I'll never hit like 8 figures probably, which is okay. I'm not trying to build that type of business. I'm trying to build one that works for me and that looks like how I want it to. But I can hire people that do everything else. Yeah. Right?
So, there's a lot of things you've said here and I'm like, wow, I had never looked at it from that perspective. So it means, it goes back to the conversation we had earlier. You actually really need to know what it is you're trying to achieve first, right? Because here, like you said, you're trying to find people to replace you, and yet that is not for your business model. And I think for a lot of service providers, and especially for those of us who work one-on-one with clients, you get a mismatch, or, the person that you brought on board ends up going with your client sometimes.
True.
But the question is, how do you, this goal, I don't even know how to ask this question, but sometimes you are not quite sure what it is is there like a step or a process to ensure that you get clarity on what your vision is so that you can start working with the end in mind? Because remember, like I was telling you, sometimes for me, especially, I know there's this big vision and dream that I have. So it looks, it's intimidating, right? And I'm like, you just stay there for a minute. I know what I'm supposed to do. I know my next 2 steps. That's all I know, and that's what I'm going to focus on. How can we get a blend between the 2 steps here at the start and the big vision. Because you see now, like you've said rightly so, maybe with the model that you've taken, you won't be able to get to 8 figures.
Yes.
And you're okay with it.
And I'm okay with that.
Right?
Yeah.
Some of us actually just doing things because we've seen other people on YouTube that are perceivably successful do the same thing. And now you try to follow the same model.
Yes.
And maybe it's not what works for you. So how do you how do you even go about finding,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an answer that will always change, meaning like where you think your life is going to be it can still change, Remember, when I was starting my business in 2017, I knew I wanted to be location independent, but I didn't know that meant I was going to move to Nairobi, right? I didn't know that meant I was going to divorce my husband. I didn't know that meant that my life was going to turn completely upside down and I was going to have 11 boxes sitting in a storage unit. The details were not there. I just knew that I didn't want to stay in London, that one day I wanted to live somewhere different, right? And so every time that I then had to make a decision, I had to keep that end goal in mind of like, I want to someday not live in London. I someday want my business to be able to come with me wherever it is that I go, right? Yeah. And that doesn't mean that I'm getting clients from all over the world, but that means that I could pick up and move to another country, even still now, I could pick up and move to another country that has business owners that need the same exact thing that I'm teaching here in Kenya and work with those business owners instead. It would just mean that I'm having to start over and build up the network and build up my credibility in another location, which I'm not interested in doing right now. But in theory, I could because of the way that I built my business. So it wasn't that my vision was my business needs to look like this. It was a vision of I want my life to look like this. I want my life to be one in which I'm not tied to a single location. I want my life to look like one where I'm able to take the afternoon off if I feel like it. Yeah. I want my life to look like one where I'm not stressing over paying bills, where I'm able to live the lifestyle that I desire, where I'm able to jump on a plane and travel to places, where I can visit my people all over the world, wherever they are. I had a potential client tell me recently that she wants to be present for births and birthdays and burials. I want that too. I want my friend to say, I have a baby due in 2 months. Can you come and hold my hand? Or to say, my father passed away in 2019, to be able to go there and be with him in the years leading up to his death, because it was a long illness, not even an illness, it was just like a long decline, and we saw it coming, but be able to pick up and be there for 3 weeks at a time without worrying that my business was going to fall apart because I couldn't work, right? So I knew I wanted my life to give me that freedom and flexibility, even if I didn't know all the details of what that was going to look like. So every decision I was then making along the way had to move me towards that, right? It means that I need to make a certain amount of money. Yeah. I need to set up my business in a certain type of way, meaning I don't have like a bricks and mortar office somewhere. I am, I promote the fact that I work with people all over the place. I'm not tying myself specifically to one location. Yeah. There's decisions that you make along the way that support that longer term vision without you getting caught up of like, I'm not there yet, right? Because even the I'm not there yet can change. Again, for example, I had my son when I was 41, my first child when I was 41, right? And when I was 31, did I know that I was going to have a child 10 years into business? No, right? It's just that's where life then took me. Yeah. But, because I'd set up my business in the way that I had, being able now to be there for my son and be present for my son is possible because I'm not tied to a desk 12 hours a day. So you need to think about not necessarily what you want your business to look like as a starting point, but what do you want your life to look like? And allow yourself to dream big, right? Allow yourself to say, I want to hit 7-figure months every single month because you can, right? It's just about then how do you get there? And you're not going to get there overnight, but every step then needs to move you in that direction. Yeah. And if something is moving you off course, you have to then recalibrate and say, wait a second, is this getting me closer to where I say I want to be or not?
Yeah. Okay, I love that. Yeah. And now my question is, how is it that for you, especially, and I think this applies to me directly, because even for me, my work is very much one-on-one. People come to me because of Daisy. Yeah. Because it's me that does the work, right? Yes. So how is it that you're able to take a break when you can? And then, I know it's systems, right? But at the end of the day, it's only you who works with the client, right? Yeah. The other things people can run, but you are the one to work
with them.
Work
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah.
So how can you take a random 3-month break and still be able to?
Yeah, so when I had my son, I did take 3 months off. Fortunately, he was born in November, and I tend to take December's off anyway. Like from Jamhuri Day to the beginning of January, I'm not around. I mean, I'm around, but I'm not working, right? And so I knew, like, so again, I say thankfully he was born in November because it meant like 1 month was already covered, right? But then it was January and February, and I wasn't able to take full time off from business because I'm the breadwinner, right? I'm the provider for my child, and I also am the person that's running the business. But it was like lights on skeleton mode, right? There was just there were a few clients that I had lined up in advance that I knew I would be able to support during that time, and that was enough that was going to help me with bills and keeping things going. And I wasn't at all trying to be at full capacity. To take 3 months off now, the way that I would do it would be I would line up work in advance for when I'm coming back from that 3 months so that I know that there's money coming in. I would get people to pay deposits for that work so that not only are they locked in, but I have a little bit of money in the meantime. And I would maybe front load some work at the earlier start of the year. Like let's say I wanted to take now from September to December off. I would try to fill up the first half of the year with more clients than I normally would and maybe overwork a little bit so that I could then be completely off for those 3 months.
Yeah.
But during the 3 months now sounds like sounds like not impossible, but it would take a lot of planning, right?
Yes.
But
Yes,
even like let's say a week off, right?
Yeah.
The way that I work with my clients now is also very structured. Like I give them the package of support that works for me as well. So when I'm designing the way that I work with clients, it's very rare that I'll give you a bespoke proposal to say this is exactly how we're going to work together. Clients usually come to me under one of my 3 packages. I have a group program, which runs like 3 times a year. I have one-off strategy days, which is just a single full day together, and I have my 3-month CEO intensive, which starts with a strategy day and then has 3 months of ongoing support after that. Because of the way that I structure those offers, I know if I want to take time off, let's say I want to take January off, I cannot start with a CEO intensive client in November, right? Because I don't want to work in December and I want to take January off. And they're going to be wanting to have their sessions during December and January because of the nature of our program. Instead, I could maybe try to start with them in October and either finish up before the holidays come or tell them that they can carry over one session to the new year, or maybe I wait and start with them in January instead. So I can then stagger my work so that I can build in those breaks in between.
Yeah.
The same thing with strategy days. Like I know that I only have capacity for so many strategy days within a month. Once they're gone, they're gone. You can't book for September. You have to book for October. You have to book for November. So it's also about the way that we package our service so that we are the ones that is calling the shots. We are the one that is standing up as the expert that our client is hiring and telling them, this is the best way to do this because I am the expert and I know.
Yeah. We say it in Swahili. Simi ndo nakusho. To mean, I'm the one telling you.
Yeah, I'm the one telling you.
And you came to me because I am the expert.
Exactly.
Right?
So if you're going to now come and question my approach, question my methodology, question my expertise, then don't come to me. Go to someone else because obviously you don't trust me if you don't trust in the way that I'm delivering to you.
Okay, so that means, oh my goodness, I'm like, I need to have you for another session.
Yes, I come.
Because I'd like for us to talk again to service businesses on how to create your offers. That's one. But also the second one is, and what I want us to talk about right now, how is it that you present? Because a lot of clients can push you around quite a bit, right? So how is it that you stand firm and you're like, you know what, me, I'm the expert, and if you don't want that, because sometimes, to be honest, like especially if it's gig work, and it's contractual work, you don't want to lose that client because you're like,
why?
I mean, that money, I need that money,
But
baby.
if that client is going to be a pain in your ass every single moment that you're working with them, why do you want them anyway? Is the money really worth it? Is it really worth it? No, it usually isn't, right? It usually isn't. So I think this also comes with like maybe a little bit with my age, also a little bit with just the length of time that I've been in business. Like I just say no. Like I actually fired a client 6 weeks ago because she didn't want to follow my process. And I was like, cool, like go work with someone else. Like I don't want the hassle. Because if you're going to nitpick about every single thing that I'm doing, then
what are we doing?
What are we doing? Why are you with me? Why are you spending your money on an expert when you clearly don't need an expert? You know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I have no problem turning away people. If people also start asking me funny questions during a consultation process, like I had someone recently who was, I won't give all the details because I don't want them to like be able to identify themselves too much. I had someone recently who was throwing up a lot of red flags during a consultation. She was telling me about experiences that she had with other people. She was telling me she was asking questions like, what happens if someone just decides it's too hard in the middle of the process and they want to give up? Like if you don't believe in your own success, if that's your mindset already, I don't want to work with you. Let's not do this because you are just going to set yourself up for failure, and you're going to set me up for failure because you have expectations from me that I can't give you. Like you have things that you want me to guarantee to you that I'm not willing to guarantee. Like how fast can I make back my investment? I don't know. How fast are you going to work? How much are you going to listen to what I have to tell you, right? So I have really no issues with turning away business because I truly believe that when we say no to the wrong opportunities, we make space for the right ones. Imagine that I lock myself in for 3 months with a nightmare client, and my dream client wants to work with me, and I don't have capacity now to do so because I'm working with this person that I don't even like working with. Oof. Right?
Lately, I feel like I've been getting permission from people in conversations that I have around how to work.
Yeah.
And sometimes you know, I don't know if it's because we are young and we're still figuring this out somewhat.
Yes.
We figured some things out, but it's still very much a learning process. And sometimes you're like, oh, am I really allowed to do this? And we forget that we're actually the drivers. We're the ones who are driving the business. You're the one who knows what you want to do. So, and I know we have these conversations, and it's easier said than done, especially for us, to say no. But in the grand scheme of things, say no.
And practice, right? You don't have to say no to everything all at once. Like, just say no once and see how it feels. And be like, oh, wow, I did it. And then you can do it again. And then you can do it again. And then you can do it again. And yes, when you're young, it takes practice. It takes confidence. But let's be honest, like, Gen Z, you guys are the future of this country. Like, you are not only the future of this country, you guys are the future of the world. Like, the African continent is primarily young people. Yeah. These people that are causing you grief and giving you headaches, they don't even know how to turn on TikTok, right? So
fair point.
No, but for real, right? You guys are experts in things that my generation has no clue about.
Yeah.
And you have to own that expertise. And who cares if I don't know how old you are. I don't even know what age bracket Gen Z is, but I call you all 20-year-olds. Like, even if you're all in your 20s, like when I was in my 20s, I moved to the other side of the world in London because I decided I wanted to, right? I decided that that's where I wanted to be next. Like, you have to bet on yourself more than you expect anybody else to bet on you. You have to have confidence in what you desire, what you want. Of course, don't be an asshole about it, but like, be confident. Charge the price that you want to charge. Stand up for yourself. Set boundaries. Say no. You have the right to do that, right?
Yeah. And I'll say this again in Swahili. Sorry, Danielle.
No, that's okay.
But really, it's hakuna mtu atakuchapa. To me, there's no one who'll beat you. If you say no, you're the one driving. You're the vision bearer of what you're trying to do.
And if they're going to beat you, you don't want to work with them anyway.
Yeah, leave them alone.
Leave them alone. Let them go somewhere else and beat someone else, you know?
Yeah. So I've just given you permission to say no.
Yeah, you have permission to say no. You have permission. And to stand up for yourself because no one else is going to do it.
Yeah.
No one else is going to do it. I even had a client come to me recently. They were doing a strategy day as a partnership because I also work with business partners.
Yeah.
And 2 days before we were meant to have the session, they were like, oh, by the way, we have a third co-founder. Can she join also? I was like, hold up. Not only did they never tell me that there was a third co-founder, but now you want to introduce someone else into the process, which means more work for me. And I went back to them. I was like, absolutely, this person can join the process at a renegotiated fee because my proposal was for the two of you, and the prep work required to facilitate, not only the prep work required to prepare for an experience is now more because there's a third bit that I have to assess. And then the facilitation of 3 people rather than 2 was also more work for me. And so they were like, cool, we'll just stick to the 2 of us then. Great. But you have to be willing to say, no, that's not okay. We did not agree to that. You signed on the dotted line. 2 names signed, not 3. How all of a sudden there's a third person? So you just have to stand up for what you think is the right thing to do. It's your business.
Yeah.
You are the boss. You are the owner. You are the solopreneur. Daisy's not going to call herself a solopreneur for much longer.
I'm done. I'm not saying that anymore. It's from today. I'm a business owner.
Yeah, for real. And then you think
Yeah.
about what that looks like, right? You think about what that means for you.
And actually, I've just remembered early in the year, we attended that Youth Plus festival, and Vusi said something. Actually, he said, what you call yourself matters. If you call yourself a CEO,
Yes.
you treat and you work differently from if you call yourself a freelancer to if you call yourself a small business owner to if you call yourself, so what you call yourself actually matters. So
It's so true. And that's
Yeah.
also why I actually rebranded one of my programs recently to be called the CEO Intensive, because it's for women who actually want to step into that CEO role. And often we think about CEO as being at a corporate place, and so we shy away from that, but that's not the case. Like, you are the CEO. Even if your business is 5 people, you need to act like a CEO. You have to
Yeah.
act like a leader. You have to make decisions like a leader. You have to protect your time like a leader.
yeah. Okay.
So be a
Danielle,
CEO.
Yeah, that has been a beautiful conversation.
Thank you so much, Daisy.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know, maybe if you have any parting shot, and in this case, parting shot for people who are maybe just trying to figure out business. Maybe they're in year 1 and everything is chaotic. It
Yeah.
can be chaotic on this side.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for us?
Okay, so if you're in year 1, and I try to remember back to when I was in year 1, but if you're in year 1, it's going to be a lot of experimentation, a lot of figuring things out, and a lot of saying yes to things while you figure out what to say no to, and that's okay. But I would still try to be very clear about where do you want to be by the end of the year. So for example, think about yourself to the end of 2026, right? So the end of
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah.
Where do you want to be by the end of the next year? Be bold, like draw it out on a piece of paper, write it out, have like almost like a vision board where you're like, this is my vision, this is where I'm trying to get to. And then from that, work backwards and ask yourself, if I want to be there by the end of 2026, where do I need to be by the end of 2025? Where do I need to be by the end of March 2026? Where do I need to be by the end of June 2026? And then when you have those little like milestones, if you say, okay, I need to be here by the end of the year and we're in September, what do I need to do between now and September to make sure that I'm going to get there? And that's how you then start to structure your priorities, your focus, your to-do list, and make time, because we have the power to make time. Our schedules are ours. Make time to work on your strategic priorities, no matter what they are, because if you don't make time for it, then you're never going to get there.
I love that. And what I've gotten from you, for me, is boundaries. Yeah.
Boundaries.
I can tell you have boundaries every step of
I
the
do.
way.
Now I do.
Yeah. And I noticed even how people perceive you with boundaries is much more different. Because once you say yes to everything, they'll just be like, okay, so I can push her around.
Exactly.
Let's actually push her and see up to what extent
Exactly.
she can say or he can say yes or no to, I can't do this anymore. So for
Exactly.
me, that it feels like I've been given permission to
Yeah.
say no and to have boundaries in check. And I
Please.
appreciate that. So where can they find you? And actually, why Stepping Stone?
It's a funny question that a lot of people have been asking me lately. When I was starting my business, I got caught up in the I have no idea what to call my business conundrum, which we all face. We're like, what am I going to call myself? And I had no idea. And I tried like pulling names together and squishing words together. And I ended up having a branding session with a woman whose business I was volunteering at, actually. And she's like, oh, to thank you for the volunteering that you've been doing for us, why don't we have a branding session together? Because that was her expertise, her background. And so we did this whole brainstorming strategy session. And she's like, okay, I'm going to come back in a few days with my ideas. And so she's the one that came up with the name.
Oh, okay.
And her premise for the name was building solid foundations for your business one step at a time. So foundations being stone and one step at a time. I've never loved the name, I have to be honest. But here we are 13 years later, and we still use it because it's fine. Like, it really doesn't matter. We order from our phone using an app called Glovo.
Yeah.
Like, right?
Wow.
So it really doesn't matter. And it's one of those things that we can really get caught up in and hung up on that prevents us from starting. And I didn't want that to be the case. So when she presented me with that name, I was like, okay, cool, it's fine. Let's just roll with it. And 13 years later, still rolling with it.
Okay.
So that's the business name.
Okay. And so now where can we find you?
So the best place to find me is on Instagram @_stepandstone. That's STEPANDSTONE. STONE. And then from my Instagram profile, you can find the link out to my website, which is where you can find about all of my different packages for support if you're looking to leap your business from 6-figure months to 7-figure months. If you're a woman, no men, please. But yeah, those are the places that you can find me.
Okay. Thank you, Danielle, for taking the time.
Thank you, Daisy.
Yeah, to sit here and have this conversation. And thank you to my audiences for staying up until the end of this conversation. Please tell us what you have picked, just so that we know if we really are putting out their impactful work. And again, remember to send us a DM on anything, any questions you'd like for us to address, any topics, any kind of conversations you'd like for us to have. We're very open to having them. And remember to keep dreaming, but most importantly, to keep doing, right? Because dreaming is free, but the hustle is sold separately, right? And from this episode, my key takeaway, boundaries, guys, boundaries. They will save you a ton of headache, yeah? So up until the next time, I've been your host, Daisy Keter. Bye.
Bye, everyone.